Hello and welcome to our video contemplation of day signature 47. This frequency corresponds to the Three of Wands and the wand virtue of charisma. It is represented by the angels of love and alchemy.
Wow. Yeah. So we have the 25th angel of love who walks the pathway of appreciation to become the embodiment of radiance. And then the 47th angel of alchemy who walks the pathway of narrative design to become the embodiment of paradise.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one.
Yes.
We smile and laugh and feel instant excitement about narrative design, about all of this, but narrative design in particular, because narrative design is one of what I refer to as three pillars. It's one of the three primary practices that I personally have built my whole life on, and now we're building our whole life on. So narrative design hits real close to home. This whole frequency hits extremely close to home from like every angle.
Yes.
Again, I feel like we're saying the same thing every day in one way or another, but that's the point. That's the point with these angels. 64 angels times 3, because you have the expression, the pathway, and the embodiment of each angel. All of these words, all of them representative of you at your best, of who you truly are. So of course it's going to feel like you're kind of being swaddled in really familiar, beautiful ideas, all of which connect to you on some meaningful level. That's what we feel like every day that we arrive to this conversation.
Yeah, I think each of the words are the best of the best.
Everyone.
You know, even this 25th angel of love, the pathway of appreciation. It's like gratitude comes close, but appreciation is an active, like participatory sort of, that's what it evokes. It's more than gratitude. It's like to really appreciate something. You're attentive and engaged, with it.
Yeah, that is so very significant. And it is fair to say that every single word in the entire angel index has been refined to that point of perfection. It took time. It took constant dialogue, and it took really a dialogue with life that helped us to essentially weed out all the words that were close but not quite in order to find all the ones that were dead on. I was personally very excited to find narrative design included in the mix, because it was something I had made up, so to speak, years ago, and then carried so close to my heart and to my life ever since. The fact that the angels took ownership of that and have so very clearly in the time since confirmed its place, along with wayfinding, one of the other pillars, and even body listening, the third pillar. It's very humbling, and so we arrive at these words. I want to return to appreciation in the exact light that you've just shared it in, because appreciation is one of those words that in the mainstream can often be kind of overutilized and misunderstood. We want to be extremely clear about what we mean by it, because it is exactly as powerful as you've just stated, and it's in the pathway. So we know that in addition to its inherent power, we have something truly practical that we can wrap not only our minds around, but begin to weave that idea into our life in real ways.
It's very accessible.
Totally accessible. Okay, so I am at a loss as to where to begin. The first thing I can think to share is another way in which this day feels close to home.
Okay.
And I'll simply preface this for our viewers and for you by stating that for the last 12 plus hours, Laura has been a fountain of charisma on this particular subject for this particular reason. And I don't know exactly what you're feeling in this moment now that we've hit record and it's time to speak and share in this public way. But if there is like any part of you that's feeling like, how in the world am I going to get all this out? We're going to relax and do everything we know to do. We're just going to share everything that comes naturally. And for you, the viewer, to understand, like, again, there's so much here that if you're willing to bear with us, we will wholeheartedly share as much as we can possibly articulate. But my goodness, it's a lot. So now that we've shared that bit, we're just asking for a little bit of grace as we navigate all of the findings that have revealed themselves since yesterday. This is a personal vortex day for you.
Yes. Yeah, so personal vortex day for me because frequency 47 is my noble expression. And this is one of the 6 frequencies that we share with you in the frequency portal, which is one of our offerings that is really, I would say right now, just an amazing place to start if you're interested in knowing what your personal frequencies are and to start working with everything that we're sharing at a really practical personal level. The frequency portal is really designed to just get you in this energy of expanding your self-concept and diving into everything that we're talking about, but doing it in a very personal way. This concept of narrative design is actually what we're talking about when we're talking about the frequency portal, because you are designing your self-concept. You're not, taking it from your birth chart, for example. It's not given to you. You have to find it and then take all of the findings and mine it for gold. Like, what resonates with you? What do you feel most excited by? And then to even consider that could be you, that is actually you that you're seeing, and really step up into that idea. Like, truly imagine yourself as, for example, the noble expression is my first name attached to the word queen. So Queen Lara, that's the noble expression. It's everything contained in the frequency of 47 is connected to this statement. So I get to really swim in that and consider what it means for me. So what it means for me is this 3 of Wands, this idea of charisma, to even consider what these are calling forward within me already is really exciting. So yeah, I think that's what I'm kind of in the energy of right now is this noble expression. But I think what is even more exciting for us to be able to share is that so much about this frequency, this 47th frequency, the 3 of Wands, the charisma, the angels that are connected to it are very much just, I guess, represented by the noble expression itself.
Oh, yeah.
So we're seeing a connection there. So when we're talking about it, we're also going to direct you to the noble expression frequency, because it's almost like this is the promise.
I would say so.
Yeah.
That's completely unexpected.
But the timing, it's
the
timing is so perfect. I had just happened to be for the last 10 days exploring my own noble expression. I've been basically going through the frequency portal, frequency by frequency in order. And I just happened to be sort of the culmination of being, exploring the noble expression for myself, kind of concluded yesterday. And I wrote a post, about my experience and my findings, posted it on Instagram and Facebook. And then the very next day, I have this personal vortex day where the frequency, the day signature overlaps with the noble expression. So it was really cool.
Purely magical.
Yeah, to see that.
And it would be very easy for us to see that and take it very personally and celebrate it in that context. But something that we've learned to do is to pay very close attention to this sort of magic. When these, when timing is so perfectly aligned, we've learned to consider that might be trying to show us something.
Absolutely. And in this case, it absolutely is.
Yeah. Okay, so something really kind of cool happened while you were speaking. Do you mind if I share something really beautiful that I noticed?
Sure.
Okay. And this is for everyone. You're not going to be able to do the part that I'm going to encourage our viewers to do.
Right.
But you will be able to after we're done recording if you want.
Okay.
There was a point in this, everything you just shared. It was a very uncharacteristic monologue for Alara. Normally I'm the one doing that. But you shared quite a bit in a flow, right? So there is a point if you rewind, where Laura says she kind of finished describing the noble expression as an idea and moved into what we saw in it. And the phrase that kind of I noticed this happening in was literally something like, I think what we're most excited about, you can literally hear, if you're paying attention, if you go back, you'll hear a change in the pitch of her voice, in the excitement of the delivery. You will be able to, if you're attentive and interested, you'll literally witness the charisma ignite. Now, I'm going to share something just a little vulnerable, which is that seconds before hitting record, I looked over at Laura after all of these hours of just sheer excitement and dialogue between us, and I said, "You ready?" And her response was kind of like a very shy, like, "I don't know." And I know that feeling. I know what it's like to be, you said you were swimming in the noble expression.
Mm-hmm.
I know what it's like to be swimming in the insight and to have it so, like, you're filled to overflowing with it.
Yeah.
There's literally so much you can't even begin to imagine how you will articulate it on purpose, under the gun, so to speak, on camera. And so we decided together, rather than waiting, to just hit record and meet the moment. But you would never have known that had we not shared that with you just now. What I saw as a result of obviously being present to that context and then listening to my wife speak is that the first half of what you shared was coming from that place of like, I don't know, but I'm here for it, which is so very courageous. We all know how important it is to act on the decision that we've made, which is what we did. But what Laura proved in speaking is that when you do that, there comes a point when the promise lands, and you're not hung out to dry with this decision you're acting on, even though you feel really unsure about what's going to happen when you do. Life comes and it just picks you right up and sweeps you away, and you say something to the effect of, what we're really excited about is, and everything changes, and you can hear it in the tone of voice. You can see it in the face. I couldn't see your face from their perspective, but I guarantee you if we go back, it'll be as if you literally lit up.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I taking the time to share all of this? Was it part of our plan? Never could it have been.
Mm-hmm.
This can't be performed.
Right.
I'm sharing it because here's a living example of the day signature. This is the wand virtue of charisma. Charisma is rooted in excitement. But how many of us are truly willing to permit that excitement to reveal itself? I can be excited about any number of things in my own private world. That feels basically risk-free at this point. Maybe it isn't for everyone. Maybe that's a leap for some people. But assume, for example, that part's easy for you. It's something else altogether to allow that excitement to communicate itself to your world, whether that's to your partner or to your family or to the world at large because you're recording a YouTube video.
Mm-hmm.
There are any number of ways I think we have historically, I say we, I don't even know who I'm speaking about. Those of us who have experienced this before, I suppose. It's not we as a world or a culture or a society necessarily. Those of us who understand the value of this may have experienced this exact sequence where you have a personal, like, fire. You're holding that spark of excitement, but you don't feel permitted to express it. So it's in you, it's a part of you. But if you're in conversation with someone you love, maybe you do not feel safe communicating that. And so that light, which is real, it's a real, vital, active part of you, is not allowed to reveal itself. You're literally not allowing that light to shine beyond you.
Mm-hmm.
Choosing to allow that light to shine beyond you, choosing to be excited, period, regardless of who is listening or what they think about you or your excitement. Man, that does take courage at first, but it's the only way to allow that inner light to shine out and begin to, like, glow on others and warm others and invite others to identify their own light, or spark or ignite others. It's extremely important that this charisma express itself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you did it, babe. Even though it felt like trembly.
Yeah.
I'm not in you. I know for me, it literally feels like in my chest, like a clutching, trembling, like, I don't think I'm nailing this.
Mm-hmm.
But you always are when you choose to become present to what you've been called to do, and you do it. In every case, you will be lifted on the wings of that promise, and the charisma will show, and your light will shine. And if it is allowed to, it absolutely touches others. It will. That's a promise. The impact is inherent to the act.
Yeah. Wow. Didn't see that coming.
Me neither. But I watched it, and I was just like, oh, I am going to have to share this.
Yeah. It's really the thing that we're trying to communicate.
It is.
That you got to witness it and
in real time.
Yeah.
The subtlety of it, I don't know. I don't know if it comes through on screen or not. I imagine it will to discerning eyes. But over and over again, we've learned that the more subtle the distinction, the larger the impact. This is an example of that. So all of this just happened unexpectedly. But we have shared why it's an important day for you. And I do believe that that's it's kind of central to the conversation because we can riff off of that into everything we're seeing, since it's that very thing that's essentially produced what we're seeing. So let's rewind.
Okay.
Now that we know that we're connecting this day to the noble expression, I think, tack on to what you shared just one additional piece, which to us is obvious but may not be to the viewer. The frequency portal includes 6 unique modules, every one of which is going to communicate one of your personal frequencies. So when Laura's talking about the noble expression, it's not just like you're going to understand what the noble expression is about. You're actually going to receive a frequency that you get to plug into that particular context and learn about yourself through as a result. And you'll get to do everything Laura's done for pages and pages in her journal. You're going to get to go searching. You're going to get to go and find yourself and those words and those ideas connected to that part of you in a very personal way. So the noble expression and each of the other 5 modules within the signature edition of our frequency portal, it's fully personalized and it guides every single participant in a new direction, in a personal direction. Laura's noble expression is a 47. Yes. Mine is a 72. Right. Completely different stories. Completely resonant stories. I mean, it's unbelievable. If you swapped them and Laura got the 72 and I got the 47, it would not feel the same. I'm sure we would find much to learn because we can learn through anything. But what we know is that the 47 is correct for Laura and the 72 is correct for me, and yours will be correct for you. We're not responsible for how or why it works that way. We just know that we were given this awesome opportunity to learn about ourselves through the frequency portal, and as quick as we could see its value, we wanted to share it with you. So that's why we get excited about this. But it's very important to know that it's tailored in that way to you.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's part of the difficulty in trying to explain why the noble expression is relevant, because yes, the 47 is my noble expression, but somehow contained in this particular frequency is the general idea of the noble expression. The description of what it is that you will read in the frequency portal is very much aligned with what the energy is of this day's signature and what we're going to be talking about. That's why it's like, what, it's a glitchy moment. Like, how do I explain this? But I think I just did.
Yeah,
so.
It's how it works. We are shown what we need to see right on time through whatever mechanisms happen to be available at that time. Life is so cool in that way. It doesn't matter if it's the noble expression or a bunch of goofy squirrels out front. If you're paying attention, you're going to get the message. We literally have gotten messages from squirrels. One day we calculated baby squirrel and it led us on this massive journey that was perfectly timed for that day. Life is going to speak. The only question is, it's not even going to speak. It is speaking. It's always speaking. The only real question is, are you listening? Are you willing to receive and interpret those messages? Right? That's the question. So we arrive at the 47 and the 3 of Wands. One day after Laura posted this whole beautiful sequence about her experience with this frequency in her noble expression. So really, really magical. We want to zoom in on the 3 of Wands for a moment. In particular, the 3. You know by now, if you've been following along, that we have special keynotes that we've given to each of these numbers. Yesterday, we talked about the keynotes that we connected to the 2. Today, we want to talk about the keynotes that we've connected to the 3. Would you like to read the 2 keynotes off real quick?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have symphony and stability.
Yeah.
And these are just stunning words,
Mm-hmm.
especially because they really capture the essence of this energy that we're talking about, this, the noble expression. Everything is about this symphony and stability. And there's this image that actually, on some of these different liberated tarot cards, we've been able to hone in on a particular image that really captures what we're talking about in that card. And for this one, it's this image of a vortex or a storm or a hurricane or a galaxy. Yeah. It's all about this perfect orchestration, this symphony of movement that is entirely dynamic, but also totally stable.
Yes. Historically, in numerology in particular, the 3 is very active. It's very dynamic, even explosive. It's even been described in less empowered directions as being maybe a little all over the place, a little scattered. That is in no way comparable to what we're being shown about the 3. In fact, the opposite. We're being shown that the 3 is deeply organized, and there's something about the organization of that movement. Yes, it's still dynamic. In fact, it's even powerful to the point of stormy. You imagine a hurricane or a whirlwind or even a tornado. These are massive events, but they're massive because of how organized they are. There's an eye at the center, and then there's this just vortex of expanding energy all around that center. That is a picture of a galaxy. It is also a picture of you. The 3 functions in this way, and it's really interesting to connect the word stability to that. It might be easy to connect the word symphony to that, because we can see the organization of that. You can see how all the stars, all the planets, all the elements work together to produce this swirling, like, musical movement.
Yes.
It's a dance, and you can see it and you can feel it. Okay, we get how it's symphonic in that regard. But stability, I think we tend to connect to stillness, to the opposite of that dynamic movement.
Which is just something that we haven't quite understood. That's what that means, is because we only see like maybe the destruction or the chaos. We can't quite get to what's actually happening, which is the very movement that produces stability. The angels have told us that, right. This change is nothing to fear. It's actually what produces stability in the first place, and security, and everything that we can totally rely on.
We think stability and security are derived through staying in place, through stagnation.
Right.
And this is why so many of us have been willing to submit ourselves to the job, so to speak. This is just one example of a way in which we've kind of like relied upon mechanisms that felt stable, but life is coming along and saying, oh, no, true stability is a symbiotic exchange. It's a movement. It's dynamic. It flows. It lives. It breathes. It absolutely changes, because change is the prerequisite to growth. It evolves. It's meant to. And so what we're finding in the 3 is something very much alive, not at all static. It cannot be static, or else it's not the 3, or else it's not the movement. So we're really excited to find that here.
Yeah.
We feel it. We connect to the 3 in a lot of different ways. A way that we can visually connect to the 3 in terms of stability is a stool. 3 legs. Surprisingly, 3 legs, like a tripod, is massively more stable on any surface than 4 legs. That's why chairs and tables can tend to be wobbly, but a stool with 3 legs or a tripod for a camera will not be. You have a great deal more flexibility in terms of what you can adapt to when you're dealing with 3 as opposed to when you're dealing with 4. There's something really special, really magical about the 3. We also connect to it in terms of relationship. We've talked about this before, I believe, but Laura and I are each individuals, and so there's 1 + 1, and somehow the union of our individuality produces a third thing, a third entity, the us. That's a third thing. And so we think in terms of 1 + 1 = 3. We love the angel number 111, 111, because it feels like it's an image of our union. These are things that we can connect to kind of in an abstract way. It's not abstract, it's symbolic.
Yeah.
And so we find that same stability inherent to what we're describing here. Another word for stability would be balance. Another word for that would be equilibrium.
Mm-hmm.
What do we know about the word equilibrium?
It's a frequency match to 47,
Yep.
which is the day signature. So,
Yep.
so when we think about this day signature, we are very connected to the idea of equilibrium.
Mm-hmm.
This totally stable but fluid energy or movement.
It's amazing.
And that is what charisma is. That's what we mean when we assign this word charisma to the signature. It's very much about focusing on a single point, which actually is yourself, so that everything else can kind of flow beautifully around you. It's like the world is orbiting around you, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of a leap to get to that point, because it feels really, really almost just, how can that possibly work, for one? How can I possibly be that selfish, too?
Yeah.
But it's absolutely what produces what we're talking about, which is the most productive, most stable, most beautiful energy, like place that you can be within yourself.
Yeah. It's a living energy.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
It's growing. It's absolute evolution and growth.
Yeah. So this is what we're finding in the 3. Of wands. We know that wands are expressive, that they have this theme of vigor. Again, this is dynamic. There's a lot of movement here. It is fiery. It's meant to be. I couldn't help but think that we often consider stability in terms of a rock, but actually true equilibrium, true stability, what we learn here in the 3 is that it's fluid. It's more like water. It's more like the water that shapes the rock, which has more power.
Yeah.
The water has more power. That's why the rock is transformed by its impact. When we allow ourselves to be at the center of our own experience, when we allow ourselves to matter that much, what we're dealing with is not self-assertion. We're not talking about performance or attempting in one way or another to make yourself larger than you are. We're simply talking about self-acceptance. We're talking about taking ownership of exactly how big you actually are. It's not self-assertion, it's self-acceptance. And when we permit that movement, when we reclaim all of that energy we've given away to external perspectives or opinions or to outer expectations, when we bring it all back inside and allow what we love to motivate our action and allow what we know to motivate and inspire our decisions, everything changes. We become the eye of the storm, so to speak, and the storm ends up not being a storm after all. It's not this terrifying, destructive entity that we refer to as a storm. It's a galaxy, it's a world, it's a heaven or a paradise that is producing itself in response to the director at the center. There's the symphony. And if you want to know who's the conductor of that symphony, raise your own hand. That's who.
Yeah.
You may or may not know it, but you are. And so we find this theme of power played out. We find the theme of charisma playing out only once you've taken like ownership of the conductor's baton and you start to wave it. It's like, okay, I do get to choose. I am a participant in this. Now you start to consider what it means to connect your awareness, your sense of self, your self-identity to a deeper source, a more resonant source. Wasn't there a connection to the angel of resonance just today? What was that phrase?
Yeah, so when we talk about symphony, this idea of this orchestration, we're talking about when you are in alignment, when you are in resonance with your true self. So actually the quote that we shared today was, "That which is aligned will always sing."
That's what it was. That which is aligned will always sing.
Mm-hmm.
Symphony.
Yes.
And we shared that in our Instagram stories. So, it's here and it'll be gone tomorrow. But the
it's
point
connected
is,
to the Angel of Resonance, which is a conversation that you can read anytime.
Yeah, and the point is we were led to that
mm-hmm.
this morning with our coffee, still bleary-eyed,
mm-hmm.
long before we ever considered what we might be sharing in this context. So it's confirmed,
mm-hmm.
basically.
And another frequency match to today's day signature of 47 is the word singing.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, this is wonderful. So these themes, not only do they repeat, but they confirm themselves when they do.
Mm-hmm.
And we recognize that. So we're on that subject. We can continue beyond it to consider how beautifully connected the idea of charisma is to the embodiment of radiance that we find in the 25th Angel of Love.
Yeah.
That was one of the very first things we couldn't help but see.
Mm-hmm.
When you are charismatic, when you allow yourself to be excited about whatever you may be excited about, when you allow yourself to love what you love wholeheartedly, and that's expressed or articulated in some meaningful way, you're radiating.
Mm-hmm.
You're radiant. You're shining a light. You can't help but be. That's what happens when love moves through us into expression.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this wand virtue is all about.
Yeah.
Charisma.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy the word. In this idea of a galaxy, you're the one who noticed this earlier, but our 15th angel of charisma becomes the embodiment of magnetism.
Mm-hmm.
That's...
Yeah. And that's literally what's happening. You are magnetic.
Mm-hmm.
You're gathering all of your energy completely into the center of you.
Yes.
And that what that ends up doing is actually producing so much more
yes.
than if you were scattered.
Yes. It's more organized.
It's absolutely more organized. When we think of the actual center of our own galaxy, it is perfectly stable, perfectly reliable. It is our literal home.
Yeah.
We live in this storm. This,
at the eye of that storm, in a way.
And at the eye of that storm is this like magnetic center.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, yeah.
It's a black hole, actually.
Yeah, I like that.
So,
a magnetic center. So
really, that's like what that's what each of us is as well.
Yes.
But if we are not in our center or really aware of what it is that we love and permitting that, then we haven't really become that galaxy that's just this beautiful fluid movement of charisma.
Yeah.
It hasn't coalesced yet.
Right. The power is diffused.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be reclaimed.
Mm-hmm.
What happens then is not only magnetic, it's electromagnetic. An example of this would be our sun.
Yeah.
Another word for that would be a logos. Another example of that would be a torus. For those of you who are familiar with the idea of a torus and how that shape or movement unfolds, what you have is a receptivity that's producing gravity. It's magnetism. But you also have an expression, which is radiance. Mm-hmm. I like to think in terms of magnetism and radiance, receptivity and expression. So there's your loop. Yeah. That loop is moving. It's the same thing as inhalation and exhalation. Yeah. It's the same thing as the tidal pattern of the waves. You look anywhere in nature, you're going to find that same loop played out. Mm-hmm. The opening and the closing of a blossom. Over and over again, we find this basic pattern inherent to life across the board. We are not distinct from that. Right. We are a part of it. We are expressions of it, and in the same exact way that a sun would be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, what you're describing is actually the 25th angel of love. That center of gravity is love.
Yeah, it is.
Which produces the radiance.
Yeah, it is. That's awesome.
And that pathway of appreciation is loving what we love. That is the pathway that produces this Taurus.
It totally is.
Wow.
All right. Cool. So that brings us back to appreciation right on time.
Mm-hmm.
Your definition of appreciation is vital here. Again, appreciation can easily be thrown around as this kind of lightweight, meaningless thing. Even something as wholehearted, an expression as wholehearted as I appreciate you, we're already seeing that kind of become overused in a way that lacks authenticity.
Yeah.
But in any case where a simple phrase like that is springing from someplace genuine within you, you're really saying something very significant, and it will be felt.
Mm-hmm.
When we think in terms of appreciation, let me see if I can find out how to articulate this. Each of us appreciates different things.
Mm-hmm.
It's like saying, what do you like? What do you prefer? What do you enjoy? Right? So I might very much appreciate the aesthetic details of particular cars. Laura might not think twice about any cars. What I appreciate about cars is for me to appreciate the particular movement of the design lines, the power, all of these things. That's for me to appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone doesn't need to appreciate that, but I do, and a lot of other people do. And so that's why you end up with cars.
Mm-hmm.
And another example would be Laura's crystals. Laura might be really excited not only about the crystal, but even about its provenance and its history, where it came from, where it was found and when, how old it is, what it's made up out of. You've literally studied like the chemical composition of crystals. You may not even care about crystals, let alone all that. Laura appreciates things that are meant for Laura to appreciate. What we find is that when we permit ourselves to just naturally appreciate those things that we are inherently drawn toward, those things that we just simply love. You don't need to know why you love it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need anyone else to love it.
Yeah.
You just need to let yourself love it. And when we consider that this is the very pathway of this angel, we're brought right back to the exact same lesson the angels have just been repeating in one way or another over and over again from the start.
Yeah.
Permit your enjoyment. Your way unfolds when you do.
And I mean, that is an extremely significant point. I would even take it one step further to say that if there is something in your life, in your environment, it is cause for you to appreciate it. It's there for you to appreciate. Like, imagine that you are a black hole and you're just drawing in everything around you into you and appreciating every single thing that you receive. That is what creates what we're talking about here, which is the charisma, which is that absolutely like force of nature.
Yeah. It's a force of nature because it instigates the evolution.
Mm-hmm.
Let's imagine we take what you just shared and we run with it. We start to notice what's around. I mean, right now we're sitting at this table and we've got these mugs on coasters and we've got the computer and the camera and the microphone and all of these different things, and we're surrounded by crystals. If we allow ourselves to actually pay attention to what is in our life, these are physical examples, but we've also got less physical examples like friends who may or may not be present, but they're a part of you in every moment, or experiences or opportunities that maybe you're considering, or ideas that you enjoy, or books that you like to read. All of these count. The point is, when you start turning an appreciative eye towards these things, you'll notice things you haven't noticed before. Mm-hmm. Our example maybe isn't the best because we are already doing this, so the things we're encountering are the best of those things. But let's imagine, for example, that these mugs we're actually noticing for the first time. Mm-hmm. You may find that you actually do appreciate having a nice mug, but the mug you're using isn't equal to what you would personally appreciate as a nice mug. What does that inspire? It inspires you to find a perfect fit of a mug. Mm-hmm. It's just the mug. Who cares? Well, the one who cares is someone who comes into contact with that particular item multiple times every single day and has opened their heart wide enough to include something as simple as a mug in their love life, so to speak. Mm-hmm. They love their life enough to include even a mug or a coaster or a table or a computer in that world of appreciation. So what you find is that as you permit yourself to appreciate what's around you, what you do have, those things that you have, which are not necessarily equal to what you most thoroughly enjoy, inherently elevate. You become inspired to elevate your world. Mm-hmm. We're talking like paint by numbers, produce your own paradise kind of shit here. Yeah. This is, I get excited, this is really awesome. If you're paying attention and you allow this to start to take root in your own world, it absolutely will perfect itself. Mm-hmm. you've heard us say it before, we're not saying it's imperfect now. We're saying it's absolutely perfect now, because whatever it is now is going to extend itself beyond itself into an even more perfect version of itself.
Yeah.
That's the promise, but it only works if all of that energy is regathered and you actually open your eyes to what's right in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I heard you saying, and I think it is a profound point. I'm glad you took it that one step further.
Mm-hmm.
It is the most practical thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Appreciation is one step beyond gratitude, because you can appreciate and be very thankful for something, but are you actually giving it your love as well?
Mm-hmm.
It's a
Yeah.
engagement.
Wow. That's very important.
Mm-hmm. And what
Yeah.
you were describing to me was like, wow, that's narrative design
It
as
is.
well. So
It is.
they tie beautifully together, both of these angels.
Let's connect that dot right
Yeah.
now, because we know we've played this out where the angel expressions, we like to draw a line between them.
Mm-hmm.
The angel pathways, we like to draw a line between them. And the angel embodiments, we like to draw a line between them. So we'll do it with the pathways.
Yeah. What
This
we were-
practical center
Mhm.
of the day's signature.
Yeah. I'm thinking, I just want to say that the angel of love and alchemy, I mean, what we're talking about is that alchemical like process taking place.
And what's the secret elixir, the secret ingredient that all of the, ancient alchemists were after? It is love.
Mm-hmm.
It is that simple. It is that obvious. And somehow it has, in fact, been evading most of us for a very long time. But not anymore. Because you can't witness a conversation like this and be present to a conversation like this and not be changed by it. Because you're in our storm now. Sorry to break it to you, but this is an exchange.
Mm-hmm.
It's an exchange of so much more than just ideas. And that's because the place we're speaking from is real. It's got a root system. It's charismatic because it's genuine.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel that, and that produces awareness that maybe didn't exist before, or wasn't ready to be like claimed in the way that it might be now. So you're right. We get to connect this dot now to narrative design. What is narrative design? It's exactly what it sounds like. Narrative design is about taking complete personal responsibility for the quality of your own inner narratives. Your inner narratives about yourself and your inner narratives about your world. Your inner narratives about God, or life, or the universe, or love, or whatever you may wish to call it. Your inner constellation of stories on every single subject of your life is up for discussion.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you've got this massive artist studio, and everything that you could possibly imagine using is on the table. It's time for you now to kind of wipe the table clean altogether and start bringing onto the table those particular types of media that you enjoy working with. If working with what is the chalky type of drawing stuff, pastels, or what is that called? Darn, I'm using a bad metaphor because neither of us are that kind of artist.
Why don't you just use watercolor or something?
Okay. Point is, you don't need certain things on the table if you don't enjoy them,
Mm-hmm.
right? Narrative design is about going inside and choosing which stories suit you, which stories ignite something meaningful in you, which particular art forms are fun for you,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know how it's going to go. Immediately after the conversation, I'm like, oh, it was this. I know that,
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. We're just going to leave that metaphor behind. It never happened.
Mm-mm.
There's the Jedi move. He didn't see that. But that's what narrative design is about. It's about claiming ownership of your own inner world and beginning to produce productive or constructive, beneficial, beautiful stories. We noticed something earlier, and I think if we imagine narrative design at the center, we noticed something that to me felt like two wings, right? Narrative design is at the center. One wing is appreciation. The other wing, you noticed when you remembered that this 47th angel in human design connects in a channel to
the 64th.
the 64th angel.
Mm-hmm.
The 64th angel is imagination,
Mm-hmm.
and it walks the pathway of thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
Narrative design and imagination, they go together. They have to, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're literally using your imagination either in a constructive direction or a destructive direction, either in a life-giving direction or in a life-depleting direction. So when we connect imagination and narrative design, we know what we're doing. And the two wings are appreciation on the one side and thanksgiving on the other side. Mm-hmm. So when you're trying to consider which inner stories are productive, the only real question for you is it so yummy that I can't help but say, thank you, yes, thank you, that's good, I love that. Mm-hmm. Because that's exactly the sort of energy that we get from the frequency portal as a whole. Yeah. That's everything you're bringing into this conversation with the noble expression and the idea of Queen Lara. It doesn't really matter who you are, even if you're initially critical of the idea of connecting these titles to your name. On some level, everyone feels really good about that idea. Mm-hmm. For me to say King Timothy, it might feel really far out of reach. It might feel even kind of irresponsible. But what it really feels like, if I'm totally honest, is like I want to sit a little straighter, I want to walk a little taller, and I want to speak with a little more confidence because it feels good to imagine myself in that position. It's also fair to say that the whole idea of like a monarchy or royalty is representative of the inner world we're describing. Yeah,
it is being king or queen of your world, your
kingdom.
Your kingdom is you.
Mm-hmm. Your kingdom is your life, mm-hmm. and you are the king or the queen at the center of that life, and that whole world revolves around you in the same way that in a monarchy, the whole kingdom revolves around the king or the queen.
Correct, yes.
Irregardless of whether a monarchy is an effective government for humans, which most of us would probably agree at this point it isn't, we do know that it's symbolic of something which is perfectly aligned with the inner world of truth that we are going to constantly go on and on about in these conversations. Mm-hmm. It is appropriate for you to govern your own world in this way, to become the center of your own world in this way. So narrative design is using the two wings of appreciation and thanksgiving to qualify the design that you're producing. Mm-hmm. If you just naturally, for whatever reason, appreciate a thing, bring that into your world. Bring that into your design. An example of this would be, for me, would be elegance, gentleness. These are two words that I discovered a long time ago, and I've claimed for myself every single moment since that time. Amazingly enough, in my noble expression, which is a 72, we find two distinct phrases. One of them is very elegant, and the other is very gentle. Mm-hmm. I could not have known that more than 10 years ago when I found those words. I could not have known it at any point along the way, and I couldn't even have known it when I discovered that my noble expression was 72. I had to live that whole sequence, and then I had to go looking for what the 72 had to tell me, and only then did I receive the gift to confirm the discovery I made all that time ago, like a finger pointing at me saying, it's true. Mm-hmm. You are very elegant. You are very gentle. You're meant to be. And the reason those felt good, the reason you appreciated those ideas of elegance or gentleness is because they are aligned with the truth. So narrative design is simply about aligning with the truth of who you are, and the way you do it could not be simpler, and it could not be more delicious. Mm-hmm. Wow. What do you appreciate? That's a part of you. What causes you to feel so good that thank you bursts out of you in response, like, oh yes, thank you. Mm-hmm. That's a part of you. Mm-hmm. Appreciation and thanksgiving. This is what the day's about.
Yeah.
Paradise. Come on. Radiance and paradise. Those are the embodiments. Mm-hmm. How can we not connect those dots? When you permit yourself to show up and you just open those doors to your heart and let that light shine out regardless of what others may think, when you do that, it is noticed. And when you do that, and that light is shining, you're not only expressing or radiating, you're also magnetizing. So everything equal to the quality of that light comes to you. The people, the compliments, the opportunities, yes, even the things, and yes, even the money. All of the things we tend to worry over are taken care of provided you permit that genuine, authentic, totally original, totally necessary light of you to shine out beyond you into the larger life.
Mm-hmm.
Everything comes as a result of that.
Yeah.
And so your paradise
Mm-hmm.
begins like the whirlwind, slowly but surely, to produce itself around that center of you. And what are you actually doing? Are you having to manifest? Are you having to do any of this hard work of deep meditation or even hypnosis or NLP or none of it?
Mm-hmm.
You're not doing any of that. You're doing what we've described here. It is the most natural, the most normal, and the most productive thing any of us could do. And it's the one thing that we have not been doing because we thought we needed to do all of these other things.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, when you were describing that, all I could picture was the sun in our solar system just shining its light, just giving its light. And then what happens is the planets start to form around the sun. And the Earth starts coalescing and forms this planet, and the planet is paradise. I mean, we live here. We know how beautiful Earth is.
Yes. It reminds me of one of my all-time favorite poems, which you would think by now I would have memorized, especially since it's one of my all-time favorite poems. I don't have a memory like that. I can hardly remember band names, let alone like lyrics. But the essence of the poem is basically like, the sun is constantly shining out on the world without asking for anything back from it.
Yeah.
And so look at what a love like that can do. It lights, I think Hafiz said like the whole world, but it lights the entire galaxy. It's like, it is love. That light is love.
Yeah.
And it's not a forced love. You're not trying to like practice or pretend some great big universal love. You're not trying to become Mother Teresa or Jesus. You're trying to become you. I'm choosing to become a Timothy. Mm-hmm. That is equal to, in terms of significance, any Jesus or Mother Teresa that has ever been. Do you realize that? That it's true of you? Mm-hmm. That you are that large and that your heart and its way of moving counts for that much? This is really deep stuff. Mm-hmm. I realize that on some mental level, on some intellectual level, it can be hard to break through to the gravity of what we're describing. But I have to trust and imagine, there's some narrative design, that anyone taking the time to join us in these videos, listening this far into any given video, is in the position to permit that exact same power, that exact same light to burst out of them into life. We're not about changing you. We're about allowing the changes in us to inspire something in you that ultimately liberates who you are, emancipates every hidden part of you to express itself completely as you. That's what we get excited about. That's what we want for you. That's why we share what we're sharing.
Yeah, and I think it's important to just point the finger at just the simple action of loving what you love leads to all of this grandness that we're talking about. It's very simple things that you permit in your life that actually produce this, like...
Absolutely.
Like, I don't know how to
new world, this power, this totally natural position that you hold in life, or role that you hold in life. It's really what produces participation, which equals empowerment. You know, because when we don't know that we get to participate, we feel disempowered, we feel victimized, we feel like, you know, we're the ones getting thrown around by that storm.
Yeah.
No, you are the one producing your own experience, whether you're aware of it or not. But when you become aware of it, you can begin to participate. That's what every day every day signature has been about in one way or another. I can't help but think of the 44 and the year signature and partnership and all of these things. Same thing is playing out here, just different words, different angles, different angles because we're meant to see it one way or another, through one word or one angel or one tarot card or one particular day signature or one word out of one of our mouths, whatever it takes, one way or another, each of us is meant to see it. And when we see it, it's the same thing we're seeing. You look into any crystal from any facet, whatever's in the middle, you're going to see, regardless of which window you're perceiving it through. Mm-hmm. Same thing here. So you are literally responsible for producing your paradise or its opposite. That's not a terrifying thing. That is the most miraculous, the most empowering gift you could possibly imagine. It's complete autonomy, it's complete freedom, and it's complete power. Mm-hmm. Because it's a completely open relationship to the source of power. Yeah. So let me just check. There was one other thing I thought I wanted to touch on. Narrative design, paradise, appreciation, radiance. Okay, I got it.
Okay.
It's the prayer.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, we know now that it's all about loving what you love.
Yes. Will
you permit yourself to love what you love? Because that matters.
It does. It's important, even if it's simple.
Yes. Especially then.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, the most nuanced aspects of our experience tend to have the greatest impact. Mm-hmm. So love what you love. The other side that we cannot help but see as fundamental, as a summary, really when it comes down to it, what we're being called to do here could not be more obvious, could not be more simple. And we find that in this next piece of the puzzle. We also find that if we were to name this day's signature or anything, it would be this. It's the simple prayer of amazement, which we've been taught. The prayer of amazement. The word prayer, by the way, is the embodiment of the 64th angel. The 64th angel of imagination who walks the pathway of thanksgiving becomes the embodiment of prayer. Why? Because the only productive prayer is the prayer that says, thank you, I love you. There are your two wings. Thank you on the one side, I love you on the other side. Why do I love cars? Why do I love custom knives? Why do I love the random things I love? Who cares? Love it. Mm-hmm. Give it your love on purpose. There are your two wings. Thank you, I love you. If you permit everything in your own mind to level up to the quality of thank you, I love you, your life will become a paradise. This is the promise. This is law. And that's what this day of alchemy is trying to show us. If you permit it, you will get it. It's ready and waiting. Mm-hmm. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Did we touch on all our notes?
I believe so.
It's a humbling moment when you realize how simple it is, how available it is, and how much of it gets to be yours the moment you realize. Mm-hmm. I think that's where we leave it for today.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. I loved this conversation. We hope you did too. It feels different again. Mm-hmm. I'm excited to go find that part I was telling everyone about. I want to watch your face change.
Okay.
Thank you all for being a witness to the living, breathing thing that's happening for us right here, day in and day out. Congratulations on all of your own versions of that, which probably have been and definitely will be playing out. And we'll very much look forward to meeting you again tomorrow in the fresh light of another really special day. And enjoy your life until then. Mm-hmm. Okay. We'll see you soon. Goodbye for now.
Bye.